Hey everybody, it's Mike and welcome to Chip Damage. And can you believe that we are already 1 month into 2022? I've mentioned this in prior videos, but ever since the pandemic started, I feel like we are still in the end of 2019, early 2020. But no, we are already 4 weeks into January 2022. It's insane. And following up on my prior video where I spoke about my game of the year and my kind of gaming history through 2021, I want to make a video talking about my hopes and dreams for this year, the year we're already 4 weeks into, 2022. There's a lot announced, and 2021 was a wild year to sum it up pretty much. Lots of good releases, lots of big releases like Resident Evil 8 and Metroid Dread and No More Heroes 3, games that we had been waiting on for a while. But, a lot of things that were originally announced for 2021 were pushed into 2022 for obvious reasons, for reasons that no one can really be blamed for, like pandemic-related, work issues, working from home. So, this year has a lot of high expectations, and I hope that they're delivered on. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through a list of the games that I'm looking forward to that I hope come out this year and say whether, I think they're going to be good or do I think they're going to be pushed into next year, because, we're still kind of like in recovery mode. We're still not quite all the way out of it. As much as I'd like to think that we are, like the working world, multiple countries, things are just still kind of slow. But, I think this is going to be a pretty solid year. Like, we're over a year since the new consoles launched, and, yeah, they're still hard as hell to get. But, the first year of a console launch is usually kind of slow. Like, I didn't get a PS4 until like 15 months after it came out, like until Bloodborne came out. And, this is the time where it starts to kind of pick up. So I think this could be a pretty solid year. So before I jump into all that, let me know, what are your hopes for 2022? What games do you want to play this year that are confirmed to come out? What games do you hope are coming out? What are your pie in the sky dreams? Are you prepped for it? Do you have your PC graphics card if you want to upgrade? Did you get a PS5 or Series X or Switch OLED? Do you feel a need to upgrade to any of those with how kind of two-way compatible, like cross-gen compatible most of these games are going to be? Let me know. And to get the YouTube stuff out of the way, if you like what you're about to hear, please like and subscribe. But let's jump into it, shall we? Let's jump into this year, 2022, which is already a month old. I can't get over that. And the first game we're going to talk about is a game that released earlier this week, and that is Pokemon Legends Arceus. Yes, Pokemon, as you guys all know, I'm a huge Pokemon fan. Last year I went through a number of titles, older titles, Pokemon Heart Gold and Omega Ruby, loved them just to kind of reinvigorate myself. I picked up Pokemon Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl, or is it the reverse? I keep forgetting. And I played a bit of that, and that was kind of a low effort remake, but I enjoyed what I've played of it so far. And Pokemon Arceus Legends, it seems like it may be, originally kind of seemed like a spin-off, like an open world 3D Pokemon game in the vein of Breath of the Wild, is what most people are saying. I mean, there were open world games long before Breath of the Wild, but in this day and age, that's kind of what every Nintendo game is kind of compared to if it goes open world. But regardless, Pokemon Legends Arceus, yeah, I think this game looks good. And from the early reviews and other YouTubers that I've heard and I trust and respect, they've also said it's pretty solid. And this is something I will definitely be picking up in the throughout the course of the year, probably a little later in the year, but because there's too many titles coming out in February that I want to play, which I'll get to. But, this game drew a lot of criticism right away from its visuals, like all the frame rate's not steady, or, it looks cheap. I mean, Pokemon, as much as I love it, is still, never been a franchise that has pushed graphical boundaries. It's always had more, try to go for more style. I think like some of the Pokemon games on the DS had amazing character sprites and background sprites, and even some of the 3DS games I think did a good job with 3D. And Pokemon, let's say what you will about the game itself, but Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, I love the look of that game. And this seems to try to look like a bit of a step up from that in a more open, wide world. From what I've heard, not a completely huge open world, but a pretty big one. And so I never cared what it looked like. And yeah, if it's a little framey, whatever. It's a Switch game. That's kind of what I've come to expect. I don't need the sharpest gaming experience for Pokemon, because at the end of the day, this is a game made for all ages, children included. So it's going to be kind of simple, and it is on a hardware that is not known for its graphical capability. But I like the style. I mean, they're billing this as more of a full title, like a full mainline title, instead of a sideline Pokemon game. Like, this isn't Pokemon Snap or Pokken Tournament, which I love, by the way. This seems to be almost like a third version following Shining Diamond and Brilliant Pearl, being that it takes place in the same region, Sinnoh, but in the past, and it's known as Hisui, and it's going to incorporate some real-time combat elements, like you sneak up on Pokemon, you could try to peg them with the Pokeball, while still retaining much turn-based combat. And, there's going to be some new Pokemon in there that were reviewed in the trailer, like, the big fish Pokemon and like a wooden mantis Pokemon. So it looks pretty ambitious, and I'm hearing some pretty good things. Some mixed things, but, on the better side of it for sure. So it's something I'm going to keep my eyes on. I want to know, this game is out. Did you guys pick this up? What did you think of this? Because sometimes I just have an itch that only Pokemon could scratch. I had that last year. I'm sure sometimes throughout the course of this year, I'll have that itch and I'll be picking up Pokemon Arceus. But the reason I did not drop the money on that right now is because in a few weeks, we have 3 games coming out very close to each other in the end of February. Yes, and all 3 of these games look to be fantastic. The first one I want to talk about is King of Fighters 15. Yes, this one is definitely one I am picking up at launch. Now, everyone knows, if you've seen my prior videos, that I am a huge SNK fan, big King of Fighters fan. And when this was announced over 2 years ago, I believe it, Evo 2019, the last Evo that took place in person. It was originally announced for 2020, obviously got delayed into 2021, and then had a big delay into early 2022. I believe it is now set for February 17th. I thought that was great. The longer it's in the oven, let it cook. Because King of Fighters 14, the last release in 2016, while a solid game, received a lot of criticism. And, King of Fighters 14 had some great things about it. It had a huge roster, 50 at launch, ended up having 58, brought back some favorites. But the main complaint about it was that it was ugly. I hate using that word. I'm not a person who can toss a game just because of its visuals, like if it looks old, because I go back and play retro games all the time as a collector. As long as a game is like, it has a style and a flavor. I think art direction trumps graphical fidelity any day of the week. I know some people disagree. As long as it's going for a game is going for something and it hits it, I'll usually accept it visually. But King of Fighters 14, it was kind of bland looking. It didn't really look like it had a style at all. It kind of looked bare bones. And despite that huge roster and some solid gameplay, it didn't hook me because it didn't have the flair that SNK games, and I think fighting games in particular, really need to have to hook an audience. I mean, it wasn't MVC bad. I mean, it may be comparably bad in visuals. When I say bad, quotation marks, but at least it had a great roster. 15 looks to remedy that. While still not pushing any graphical barriers, it still looks considerably better than 14. Smaller roster at launch, 39, which is still very good for compared to any other fighting game launch. I mean, Street Fighter V launching with 16. 39 is still pretty beefy. But the actual roster itself is more solid. I mean, the characters that were cut from 14, to be honest, were not my favorite. I kind of hate them, like Sylvie Paula, whatever her name is, and there's characters whose names Love Heart, like these throwaway pachinko characters, they're not returning yet. They can stay away. If we have to cut those to kind of increase the style, the artistic merit of King of Fighters 15, let them go. And today, at the making of this video, they announced the first 6 DLC characters, and they are incredible. They released. I love it. I'm usually not a fan of DLC being announced before a game comes out, but I'm okay with this because there's a big base roster and these characters are sick. It's Rock Howard, it's Gato, and it's Bonjane from Garo Mark of the Wolves, my favorite SNK fighting games. They're coming out in March. And then you have Team Southtown, which is Geese Howard, Billy Kane, and Yamazaki, releasing in May. So you have that makes the roster twice as good. So I will be picking that up. That'll probably be my fighting game that I play the most this year, new fighting game. I cannot wait to play that. I will be getting the GameStop exclusive, at least in North America, the GameStop exclusive Omega Edition, which comes with the first season pass, including Terry Bogart's Garo Mark of the Wolves costume, as well as Leonia's classic costume. I think this game looks pretty good. I have some worries about it, of course. There are some auto combos in there. I'm not a huge fan of auto combos. I think they can kind of break the flow of the game, but it's not as egregious as in other fighting games. I really want to get my hands on it. I only played a little bit of the beta/demos they've released throughout the year. So the first big fighter of the year, and I've spieled on long enough about, is King of Fighters 15. But we must move on because a week after that, there are 2 games launching within days of each other. And you know, with the and they each have expensive collector's editions. And with the release of King of Fighters 15 so close, and these two games both being large, I needed to cut one. You know, not only am I not going to play one anytime near the launch of it, but it's a lot of money. These collector's editions are almost 200 American dollars both. So I'm like, all right, which one am I going to have to cut? And it's the next game I'm going to speak about, but I'm still definitely picking this game up later in the year because I'm very excited for it. And that is Horizon Zero Dawn 2 Forbidden West. And yes, this game I've been waiting for quite a while. This game looks fantastic. I was a huge fan of Horizon Zero Dawn, the original back in 2017. I actually enjoyed it. Don't string me up for this more than Zelda Breath of the Wild in many areas, especially the combat. I mean, the story in Horizon and like the side quests were not, you know, mind-blowing, but the actual combat, the hunting and fighting of robot dinosaurs and animals, it nailed it. There was something incredibly viscerally satisfying about it, and I really enjoyed that. You know, and I think it was the beginning of a great franchise, and I cannot wait to see what they do with Horizon 2. I've seen many great things. I've seen that they've kind of fixed the terrible melee combat, so I will be picking that up. But there was a limited edition of that as well, which was $200, which came with like extra skins and like a large statue of like a robot mammoth. But I'm not going to play it when it comes out. That's going to be a beefy game, and that was just a lot of money to spend at the moment, so I had to cancel it, but I will be getting it later. And the reason I'm canceling because there is no way I am missing our next game. Now, before I begin, let me give this game a bit of a prologue. At the end of 2021, the game that I dove into the most during my like between Christmas and New Year's break from work was this game right here, which was gifted to me, Demon's Souls. This game absorbed me. Now let me give you a quick history of mine. I grew up loving From Software without even knowing that I love them. I just had their games. Like, if you've seen my videos before, you know that these are two of my favorite games of all time, Otogi 1 and 2. The top 10 games, I don't know exactly where, but they're up there. They're From Software, early great titles. This was my first Xbox 360 game, Enchanted Arms, the first JRPG on there. A silly turn-based JRPG that they did earlier. You know, of course, they're most well-known for Armored Core before the Soul series, but I was getting all types of their games. Chrome Hounds, what you all know about Chrome Hounds, and Ninja Blade, like all these silly games, like Metal Wolf Chaos. I love From Software, but it took me a while to get into the Soul series, and I played Bloodborne a few years ago, but the Souls games proper I'm now getting into. That is what I'm playing right now. Beat this game recently, platinumed it, loved it, immediately bought Dark Souls Remastered, beat that, DLC and all. Currently working my way through Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin. Very interesting game, very divisive, but I'm enjoying it so far. So I am in a very Souls mood. That's what made me make this decision to pick up their next release on February 25th, Elden Ring. I cannot wait for this game. I've heard nothing but positive things from people who've played the beta, the online demo. And I decided to go with the collector's edition of that, which is about $180 US. It's very expensive, but I am that hyped for this game, and I think the collector's edition looks cool. And while I think there's a trend in over the last couple of years to follow Breath of the Wild's success, to turn every game into like an open world game, and yet again, like, you know, there were huge open worlds well before Breath of the Wild that were very successful, but it seems when that game came out, like every game had a kind of like people like a lot of gaming journalists will say like, oh, it's clearly following Breath of the Wild's footsteps. Like, no, there's Breath of the Wild was following a lot of other games' footsteps, whether it be, you know, early open world games like GTA or the Elder Scrolls game, regardless. But I think Elden Ring looks like it's doing it right from what I've seen. I'm very excited. Like, it's an open world. It doesn't seem like it's going to be too huge, but it looks like there's going to be a ton of stuff to do. There's no dead space, you know, empty space, not the game Dead Space. Like, there will be castles and tunnels and bosses roaming, internal combat. It looks fantastically diverse. It has a great style. It looks like it is taking from all of the prior Souls games. The general feel of Dark Souls, but the speed of Bloodborne with the stealth mechanics and jump verticality of Sekiro. This looks like it could be a magnum opus for the great video game auteur Hidetaka Miyazaki, who I think within the last decade is honestly closing in on the likes of Miyamoto or Kojima in terms of like a string of quality releases that are very beloved. I mean, these games win Game of the Year whenever they're released. There's a chance that Elden Ring could be many publications' Game of the Year this year. It looks like it's probably going to be mine, but it is definitely the game I'm most excited for, and I will be picking up on February 25th. But we must move on. You know, following Elden Ring, following the crazy month of February, March has one or two games that I have my eye on. Let's go to something a little lighter. I'm talking about Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Yeah, Kirby Kirby is a franchise I have some experience with. I enjoy Kirby. Sometimes it's fun to just turn your brain off and jump and play an easier game that's very cutesy. And I love the original Kirby on Game Boy and the Wii games, like Epic Yarn. But this is the first 3D Kirby adventure, like real 3D Kirby adventure. It was so weird. Like the first trailer, like some stages look like they're out of Nier Automata. It's like a ruined post-apocalyptic world. I'm like, is Kirby take place like in post-apocalyptica, like after the world ends? Is like Kirby in the far future? But regardless, it looks like it's going to be a very stylish, very visually appealing, fun 3D platformer pseudo open world game starring my boy Kirby. That just seems like a good time to deflate. Like whenever I'm out, just pop that game in and have a good time, explore with Kirby. So I will definitely be picking that up. The next title that's coming out in March, I don't know if I'm picking up. Like I kind of, I'm a bit of a troll. I might be trolling myself if I get this next one. That is Final Fantasy Origins Stranger of Paradise. Or the reverse, Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origins. What is this game? Not and no shade on anyone who's like legitimately interested in this, but this has to be a joke by Square. Like they have to be in on it. What this is, if you don't know, it is a remake of Final Fantasy 1 in the style of like a super serious, edgy third-person action game, taking kind of some style from Neo, which is apt because this game is being developed by Team Ninja, who made the Neo franchise. And it's so insane. Like Final Fantasy 1 is an incredibly kind of simple, very European-esque JRPG with not a lot of story. Like they're going hard on this. This looks like something that would have been made in the early 2000s, and it would have had the soundtrack of Disturbed, Limp Bizkit, and Drowning Pool in it. Like it is insane. Like if Square is serious, I'm waiting for the curtain to be pulled. Like some Metal Gear Solid 2, Raiden to Snake to Raiden, Switch. No, this was all a joke. It's so edgy. Everyone has seen that trailer, gotta kill chaos, and melodramatic and broy, and I can't believe it's real. I'm so interested in this. I don't think it looks good, but I want to play it to see if it's real and just to wrap my mind around this crazy game. So please let me know, what do you guys think of this? If you legitimately think this is cool, no shade on you, but to me this looks like a joke that would have been made years ago. Are they diverting attention from the Final Fantasy 16 staff to help Team Ninja make this? Please God, don't do that. This is a big budget game. It looks like a large game, and no one asked for this. But yeah, Final Fantasy Stranger of Paradise coming out in March. I may or may not pick that one up, but I am super interested, let me tell you. And now we're gonna jump ahead a little bit later into the year for the next title and talk about another big RPG coming out, and that is Starfield. Yeah, so Starfield is Bethesda's next big RPG, set for release on 11/11/22, November 11th, 2022. And that is, if you didn't know, I think they really want to hit that date because Skyrim, Elder Scrolls V Skyrim launched 11/11/11, November 11th, 2011. I want to keep that motif, 111122. And I don't even know what to say about this. Bethesda's such an odd duck. So, quick history. I fell in love with Bethesda in their middle period at the release of Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. I still think it's the one of, if not the greatest, Western RPG of all time. It's my favorite anyway. That game was truly unique. It was its own thing, its own world. It didn't take any or not many influences from Tolkien or other fantasy things. It was it's creative. There was a whole town, that was, people lived in mushrooms and you got around riding around on giant fleas. That's how you fast traveled. And it was very interesting. You do wacky stuff. If you wanted a ring that lets you see in the dark and breathe underwater, or fly, make a dress that let you fly through the air at stupid high speeds while shooting poisonous fireballs, you could. The game let you kind of almost break it, and that partially had to do the originality with the location of the game in Tamriel, the games world. That was Morrowind, Vardenfell. But it was very unlike anything else, very open, incredibly open. It really let you do whatever you want. And then of course its sequel came out, Oblivion, more Western European looking knights and kings, but that was due to the continent, but you still let you have a degree of freedom and wackiness. And then Skyrim came out when Bethesda was really pumping them out. And that's it's a great game. It's been re-released on everything, including toasters at this point. But it's not my favorite. I think they stripped it down a lot. A lot of the customization was taken away, and the combat's better, and you could dual wield like spells and swords and stuff. But the world itself, like the Nord world, it's very Nordic, which was very popular at the time. Game of Thrones, and it's not my favorite look, but there's just like carriages and dragons, and that's fun, but it kind of lost some of its originality and customization. So it's, I think they just wanted to make a more massively marketable game by making it a little simpler, and I kind of felt that. I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I felt with it. And, Elder Scrolls Online, it's supposed to be the whole world of Tamriel, the whole Elder Scrolls world, but it kind of has like the Skyrim skin put over everything, so it's like kind of bland to me. So that franchise, Bethesda, in my eyes, has lost something. And its other big franchise, Fallout, well, let me tell you, I started yet again a little late on that one with Fallout 3, like many fans. I love that game. That was my sophomore year in college right there. I played the hell out of it. But then this game came out, and this is going to be a little divisive. And, this was my favorite Fallout game. Like Fallout New Vegas was amazing. And, it was actually developed by Obsidian, outsourced from Bethesda, Obsidian is a company now also owned by Microsoft, which is funny. But, a lot of people said this was very buggy. I didn't really encounter that. And if even on the 360 version, not really. I really enjoyed it. I think it had a more focused story and a cooler setting. And if you play it today, it's, everything's pretty much fixed. But then after that, Fallout 4 came out, and it was just, it was back in Bethesda's hands, but it was just a little more boring in my eyes. It didn't change much. And I feel like everything in Fallout 4 was like, go here, kill everybody in the room, and come back. But Fallout 3 in New Vegas kind of had to like, hey, go and do it your way. Maybe you could talk your way out of it. Maybe you could sneak your way out of it. But no, it's like you kind of blow everything up in Fallout 4. And yeah, there was like some base building elements, but I kind of fell out of it before even finishing because it was just more of the same. The engine was aging. And of course, there was the catastrophe Fallout 76, which is apparently or very obviously one of the biggest disasters of the 8th generation of consoles. I mean, no one asked for it. Bethesda games are open, like single player RPGs, and I think that's one of the reasons people can want it. They're like, no, I want a multiplayer Fallout, and I don't want any NPCs. And there was so many problems. It was glitchy. It didn't work. There was multiple bugs that would break the game, and they lied about the collector's edition bag, and the GameStop edition helmets had mold in them, so people could have gotten really, really sick, and there was like a multitude of issues with it. It was kind of an embarrassment, and I think that kind of led to it being open to purchase from Microsoft. I think and I'll talk about this in another video, I think that might have been a good thing. They've always been a bit more associated with Xbox in their past, like with Morrowind and Oblivion being console exclusives, Oblivion being a console exclusive for a year or two on 360. And I think like maybe with the extra budget and resources that Microsoft can push into Bethesda, Starfield could be good. Maybe like they like Microsoft wants to recover itself after the kind of the failure of the Xbox One generation, and maybe they want Starfield to be that big Western RPG, but be a spear front for their early the Xbox Series X. But we haven't seen anything of it. This game is coming out in 10 months. And it's going to be huge. And, it's still a while. Maybe at E3 there'll be a huge blow up. But I have no expectations for this. I don't care about it. If it's just Fallout in space, I don't know how interesting that's going to be. Like, there's got to be a hook. There's got to be a good hook. It's got to look good. And it's got to distinguish itself. Fallout has a very big, certain sense of humor. And so does Elder Scrolls. But they're distinct enough. Let's see. What do you guys think of Starfield? It's a big question mark for me. I just want Bethesda to kind of go back to their roots so they're not like the laughingstock that they've been for the last decade where they just keep releasing Skyrim so they could pump money in to fix Fallout 76. I don't know. You guys let me know. But speaking on Bethesda, let's talk about one of their subsidiaries, Ghostwire Tokyo. This is, if you've forgotten, a game that was announced a couple of years ago, being made by Shinji Mikami, the creator of Resident Evil and the Evil Within series. Where it's a first-person game where you're like in a ghostly post-apocalyptic Tokyo where you use martial arts and spells to fight monsters and demons. And we've seen many trailers of this game, quite a few, like every year at E3 and in certain events. But like it's been so long since it was announced. Of course, COVID-related issues, but it's starting to fall out of the public consciousness, I feel. Rumri Nakamura, I forget the producer's name, I believe that's her name, was one of the creators on this game, left, and that kind of she was a big PR person for the game, and after she left, that kind of hurt the game's public image, I think, a little bit. But it's slated to come out this year. It will be a PS5 exclusive, even though it is a Bethesda property. At least for the first year, it'll be an exclusive because it was inked before the purchase. And yet again, I don't know. I don't think that game, Ghostwire Tokyo, is coming out in 2022. I really don't. I think it's being pushed again, and by that time, it might completely change. Like, it's been so long since this was announced. I think this is like I hate to say it, I really respect Shinji Mikami. He's one of the best. But I think it might be a Biomutant situation where it keeps getting changed and takes so long that it comes out that no one cares by the time it comes out. And it's like, it's an okay game, but it's like, eh. But Ghostwire Tokyo, I think that's getting pushed. But I hope it ends up being good because I love Mikami. But let's talk about another game that is supposed to be launching early to mid this year. And a bit of a smaller game, an indie game, Oxen Free 2. Now, let me say, if you don't know, Oxen Free is a game that I typically wouldn't like. It's a smaller indie game that is way more story focused and gameplay focused, and it's essentially about a group of friends who go to a let's say haunted island, and depending on your actions you decide who gets off that island, if they get off the island, and in what state your relationship with your friends is after getting off that island. And it's very stylistic, and it's not a big budget game at the least, very simplistic graphics, but there was something there. It had some 50s horror there, and it had some inventive ideas, and it had some heart, and I enjoyed it. It's a fun game. It's a fun game to play like alone at night. It's not like scary, but it's got its moments, and it hooked me. And I'm surprised it's getting a sequel. I know people are excited for that. It's not a game that necessarily lends itself well to a sequel. And it's been quite a few years since Oxen Free 1 came out. But hey, I'm interested. I'll be picking it up. Oxen Free 2, the indie game I'm most interested in this year. But let's go back up to the big boys. Let's talk about another game announced originally for last year, I believe, but is now pushed nebulously somewhere into this year, and that is Batman Arkham Gotham Knights. Yeah, so if you don't know, there are 2 Batman Arkham games, follow-ups coming out, one this year, one next year, ostensibly, supposedly. And the one next year is the one made by Rocksteady, and that is the official in-canon follow-up to Batman Arkham Knight, and that is the Suicide Squad game, the Kill the Justice League game. And that game, like I said, next year, I'll put my thoughts in on that. But Batman Gotham Knights is going to be made, I believe, by the same team who made Arkham Origins. It is a spin-off. It is not set in the continuity of following the Arkham Knight, which is very odd. Like, this is just its own thing. This is a game where you play as the Bat family, Nightwing, Robin, Batgirl, Red Hood, and you must take on the Court of Owls, a slightly newer, 10 years old now, but slightly newer cabal of villains, like Secret Society with assassins, a group of Batman villains. And it's interesting, but I'm very Batmaned out. Arkham Asylum was fantastic. Revolutionary. And then, Arkham City, bigger, better in many ways, like not as tight and focused as Arkham Asylum, but like it was a big open world game. And then like after that, I was starting to get Batmaned out with all the movies and the games. And then like Arkham Origins came out, and I know many people have like gone back and replayed it and it's been redeemed, but when Arkham Origins came out, I didn't finish it. The combat felt a little off. I was getting a little tired of Batman. I wanted to play the next Rocksteady developed game, which was in 2015, which was Arkham Knight. And I hate to be that guy to follow the trends, but yeah, I thought that was the weakest of the Rocksteady trilogy by far. You felt the absence of writer Paul Dini, who wrote the first 2 games and is one of the writers of the Batman animated series, amongst other DC titles. And, I was just getting a little tired of it. No matter what they say, the Joker is like the main villain in all of those. And I was really sick of that. They're like, all right, Batman, Arkham, Asylum, used the main villain. Batman Arkham 2, it's Hugo Strange. No, it's not. It's the Joker. Batman Arkham Origins, it's Black Mask. No, it's not. It's the Joker. Batman Arkham Knight, it's the Gotham Knight and Scarecrow. Yeah, kind of, but it's still mostly the Joker. And I was getting a little sick of that. But yes, there's also the big trend of the Batmobile. That game, it did get boring quickly. And like it's like Arkham Asylum, tight and focused. Arkham City, open world, and Arkham Knight's contribution was bigger. So I got a little tired of the franchise, and that last game was kind of weak. But with this game, it's very interesting. I love the Bat family. I'm still not in a Batman mood exactly. I'll keep my eye on this. It's very cool that it's going to be a 4-player co-op game. I'm going to keep, like I said, I'll check what friends of mine and publications I respect, like Easy Allies, have to say about this, but it's not something that I'm going to need to run out and buy day one. I'm a huge Batman fan. I'm a huge comic book fan, but as far as Batman games, I'm a little burned, and I need reassurance that this one's going to be good, because I never, I haven't felt that magic since Arkham City. But we must move on to something that I always feel some magic for. Now, last year was the 30th anniversary of my boy Sonic. Everyone knows I'm a big Sonic fan, and the best thing that happened last year for that was clearly the Sonic concert. Amazing if you haven't seen it, where an orchestra, rock band, and Crush 40 go through the history of Sonic music and play many of their greatest titles. Made me cry. And there was also the release of Sonic Colors Remastered, which is very bizarre. Came out, it's an odd pick to be remastered. It's it's a good Sonic game, but I mean, it's no one's like absolute favorite, and like as far as I know, of course, it was kind of trapped on the Wii, so it was the first time it got to be in HD. And Generations you could play on the 360 backwards compatible, but I think like Generations or an adventure title would have been. It would have been bigger to make those remastered instead of colors, but maybe it was just like easier to do colors, smaller game. Solid. It was very buggy in the beginning on some of the consoles, but I played it a few months after, and most of that's been patched out, including the ability to play the older music track. Many people were upset that it was only the remastered track you can now do. So it was okay. Ended up being okay, but it definitely fumbled out of the gate, and I think that kind of put a bad taste in people's mouths after colors. And you know, the last mainline Sonic game before that was Sonic Forces, which I don't think is as bad as people say. I just think it's like a nothing. It was a very quick game, like you could beat it in like 3 hours. But what was there wasn't terrible. I mean, classic Sonic felt kind of bad to control, but there were some good visuals and some good music in there. The creative character was fine. It was like a nothing to me. And the most recent Sonic Racing game, Team Sonic Racing, yet again, it was okay. It wasn't as good as the first two, but it's not bad. So Sonic is like kind of like in a middling area right now. But this year we have the announcement. Of course, this is all a preamble to the big 2 Sonic games announced this year. The big one being Sonic Frontiers. Now, I don't even know where to begin on this. An open world Sonic game. Yet again, everything's got to go open world, and that's not inherently bad. But no one, I think, was asking for that. No one's like, yeah, you should be able to just go anywhere. I mean, like I think the choosing areas in Sonic Adventure were just fine. They didn't need to be that much bigger, but. We have to see what it is. There's many rumors, and I don't want to really go off any of those. But it's like Sonic levels are inherently great to me because they are so focused. Like it's a straight linear path that you must use your reflexes and your memorization to get through at breakneck speed. And that's like the best. Like that is what a 3D Sonic game is at its best. And to be open world, I don't know what that adds. It's going to be very interesting. Like, is there going to be stuff to do? Are there multiple themes of levels? Or is it one big grassy field? Like, I don't want it to be, I want all types of wacky stuff. And it's a big question mark. It's coming out this year, but we don't know much. I do think it's going to drop this year. I hope it's not rushed. And I know it was slowed down due to the pandemic, but I want this game. I do think it's coming out mid to late this year, and we're going to find out. I'm keeping my expectations in check. You have to do that with Sonic games. I'm going to buy it no matter what. But, you know, this one, yet again, I don't know what an open world can add to it. But I'll keep my eyes open. I mean, it's being written by Ian Flynn, the writer for the Mega Man and Sonic comics. So I expect the story to be of fairly higher quality than it has been in the last few games. And, yeah, let's see. What do you guys think of this? What do you want out of a Sonic game? What I want personally is if jumping feels good. If running and jumping feel good in this game, that's 90% of it. It's like, that's all, that's if you have a platformer and you have a good feel when you run and jump, I think that's 75% of what makes a good game. The rest is like level design and music and all this. But like, as long as it feels good to move in a game that is primarily focused on movement and momentum, you're good. That's what Sonic Mania did so well and what Sonic the Hedgehog 4 did so terribly. Like, and Sonic 06 feels terrible. Like, but you know, if it feels good, you're getting at least a C+ in my book. But the other title may end up being even better. The lesser or the smaller announcement, Sonic Origins. If you don't know, Sonic Origins is a collection on the newer consoles, a digital release of Sonic 1, 2, 3, Sonic and Knuckles, and Sonic CD, with the ability to do lock-on from Sonic and Knuckles into the older titles. Now, this is very interesting for a few reasons. There have been a number of Sonic collections throughout the year. They release them all the time. Of course, one of the most famous one is the Sonic Mega Collection that was released on GameCube, PS2, and Xbox. By the way, if you're interested, get these on PS2 and Xbox. There's more games on there. This was a collection of all the Genesis titles that allowed you to do the lock-on for Sonic and Knuckles to extend the games. Fantastic collection, probably the best that's currently available. There was one on GameCube, the Sonic Gems collection. This is how you would most recently play Sonic CD on a console until there was the Christian Whitehead digital release on 360 and PS3. This is a fun release with like Sonic R, Sonic the Fighters, but mostly Sonic CD is kind of the star piece. And then the gen after that, they did this guy right here, the Sonic Ultimate Genesis, which had collection, which had 50 Genesis games on it. Problem with this one is it had all four. It had Sonic 1, 2, and 3, Sonic and Knuckles, no Sonic CD, but you couldn't do the lock-on. They said they couldn't fit it on the disc, but I think that's a lie. I think it was just laziness. And then they were downloadable, and of course, like each one of these has like, you know, they're getting older, so it's nice to bring them to the next generation. But the most interesting thing about this collection is Sonic 3 and Knuckles is on it. For those of you who don't know, Sonic 3 and Knuckles had music developed and by Michael Jackson, And the estate of Michael Jackson is run by a man named Brad Buxer, and apparently he doesn't play ball well, or Sega wants nothing to do with that estate, with all the allegations against Michael Jackson. That's the going rumor. There's never been like 100% confirmation, but like that's what it is. So in the last decade, ever since the Sonic collection on Nintendo 3DS or DS, there have been no official releases of Sonic 3, which is insane, especially for console. Like the Genesis Mini doesn't have Sonic 3 Knuckles on it, just 1 and 2. The most recent Genesis collection on PS4 and Xbox One and Switch doesn't have Sonic 3 Knuckles, which is insane because those are the many fans' favorites, and it feels so incomplete. Like when you connect Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, that's the biggest old Genesis, like Sonic Genesis game. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with those titles. Is it going to have the same music? Is it going to have the PC release music from in the late 90s? Is it going to have a brand new arranged soundtrack? We're going to see. So Sonic 3 and Knuckles are a big question mark. The next big question mark is the Sonic CD, one of the lesser known Sonic games. And some people don't like this game. They say it's too crazy, too hard to see, it's too wacky and pinball-y. But it's, I'd agree at first, but like after playing the Christian Whitehead version, I gotta say, like I love it because of that. It's so weird in Japanese and bombastic and flamboyant. And after you kind of figure out how it works, like there's something magical about that game. And I ended up really loving it over the past year. I played that game in the middle of last year. But the Christian Whitehead version is kind of the definitive version, and it's never gotten a physical release. It has better physics and the ability to play as Tails and both options for the American and Japanese soundtrack. Will this Origins have all those options? Will it be that version? Somehow I doubt it. I've heard there's bad blood between Christian Whitehead's studio and Sega, but which would be a real shame because that version is killer. But what will that version be? Will it have the American or Japanese music? These are important to Sonic fans like myself because these are some of the greatest platformers of all time. So how is this collection going to be? I'm excited that all 5 will be in one place no matter what. I hope it feels good. I hope it sounds good. We're going to see. That might end up being better than Sonic Frontiers. And we must move on. Let's talk about another gaming icon. Let's talk about Zelda. Let's talk about the sequel to this game that is supposedly maybe coming out this year. Yeah, I got the Wii U version. I know. I'm one of like 4 people that have Breath of the Wild on Wii U. Breath of the Wild 2 is slated to come out sometime. This is a game that was announced quite a few, 2 or 3 years ago at this point, I believe. And maybe Nintendo's big holiday game. That's a possibility. We've seen some trailers. The game doesn't have an official subtitle yet. We're just calling it Breath of the Wild 2 because it's clearly a sequel to Breath of the Wild. That's what we do know. And, Breath of the Wild is not my favorite Zelda game. That's always going to be Wind Waker, but I recognize that they did some fantastic things in Breath of the Wild. That open world is so much fun to climb around in and explore. The combat was never my favorite, but I love the color palette and kind of the look of it. I'm one of those people who think Link should talk now. It's been too long. Like, it's so weird when he just dead-eye stares everybody when everyone else can talk, but that's neither here nor there. I think, and it's the 3rd highest selling Switch game, only behind, Smash Brothers and Animal Crossing, or 4th rather, in Mario Kart, and that's insane. Like obviously they're continuing with this franchise, but this game, yet again, what do I want out of it? I want, most importantly, I know it's a cliche saying, I think a hero is measured by their villains. And, I want Ganondorf. Like, that's a hint that we're getting in some of the trailers. And, of course, there was Calamity Ganon, who looked very cool in Breath of the Wild, but really wasn't a character. He was more of a thing. And, I love swarmy, like, Toon Ganondorf from, Wind Waker. And I love, like, confident Ocarina Ganondorf. I think he's, like, my favorite Zelda character. Say what you will about that, but that's what Breath of the Wild is doing, like a villain. Like I think like Final Fantasy VII, one of the reasons it's the most popular Final Fantasy is it has a solid villain. Like Sephiroth is a physical villain that's a presence throughout that game, and that's what Ganondorf is throughout a lot of the other prior Zelda games. I think Breath of the Wild, if it had a persistent humanoid villain like that, I think that would be so much better. And we've already seen some cool features exemplified in that, like going high up into the clouds. But I wouldn't be surprised if this game is pushed. Breath of the Wild was pushed so much throughout its development, that it was originally coming out in the middle of the Wii U's life, and it ended up being the last Nintendo published game on the Wii U and the first Switch game. Much like how Twilight Princess was one of the last GameCube games and one of the first Wii games, and like a bridging title. I wouldn't be shocked if Breath of the Wild 2 is delayed so much it ends up being like the last Switch title and the first Switch 2 title. And, it can happen. But if it does come out this holiday, I will be a little surprised. But yet again, it's a big question mark on that one. What do you guys think? If this is actually coming out this year, what do you want to see in this? I just want a better villain. And I'll pick it up and I'll be happy. I'm going to check it out regardless because it's Zelda. But you know, I want to mention this. No matter when it comes to reviews on Zelda, professional reviews, you know, when you collect games, when you play games long enough, you know to take all reviews with a grain of salt. All Zelda games get perfect 10s when they come out, regardless of like all mainline. Like, you know, the Triforce Heroes doesn't get it, whatever. But like Skyward Sword got perfect 10s on the Wii when it came out. And many people had huge issues with that. And then like later on, there'll be like some people will be more critical of them. This is my prediction. No matter how good or bad Breath of the Wild 2 is, every publication will give it a perfect 10. Whether it's better or worse than the first one, but we will see how it is. I want it to be good. I'm expecting that to be Nintendo's big holiday game, and I expect it to be directly competing with what I think is definitely coming out this year. I really hope so. Is Sony's big game for the holidays, and that is God of War 2, ostensibly Ragnarok, I believe is the subtitle. Yeah, I think this game was originally announced for 2020 last year 2021 in 2020, but got pushed. And yes, God of War for the PS4, the 2018 God of War. You know, I loved it. And quick history, the original God of War series on PS2, and please don't hate me for this. Let me, you know, I was not a huge fan of God of War when it came out in 2005. And not to knock the quality of the game, it's obviously well made, but like at that time, when comparing the combat system of God of War to the then prior release, like Devil May Cry 3 or Ninja Gaiden Black, like it just didn't stand up to me. It was much more loose, a lot more friendly, not as cool. And, you know, I grew up watching like Greek mythology, like, you know, adaptations. They've been making them forever. From like Clash of the Titans in the 80s, I grew up watching Hercules' Legendary Journeys. Like Greek mythology was kind of boring to me at the time, even that take on it in God of War. And like, it wasn't, you know, and the story wasn't grabbing. It's like Kratos is an angry guy. It's like this power fantasy of like sex and violence, and it lacked the finesse and kind of the tightness of control that Devil May Cry and Ninja Gaiden had. And it was kind of the same vein of game, third-person character action game. And I kind of just like, not that I poo-pooed it. I played through the first one. I enjoyed the cinematic qualities of it. I enjoyed the largeness of the bosses, but it was never even close to my favorite game. I just thought, you know, whatever, I'll keep an eye on it. But then in 2018, you know, I took a shot with it. I thought it looked interesting. And, you know, they really changed the game up. And I know some fans weren't a fan of that, but I was. God of War kind of wanted to do its own thing. You could say it's like Last of Us, but the problem with that is it's Last of Us, but it's a lot cooler. It has like superpowers and bosses. And I like the mature Kratos. I thought his son would get annoying. It never did. I think he was a good AI companion that actually helped you. They changed the combat entirely to be over the shoulder, but it was very meaty and solid. It was much more grounded and slower, but like it was different. Just the sensation, the tactile sensation of throwing that axe and pulling it back was very cool. And some cool bosses. Not enough. That's my one critique of God of War 2018. The original God of War had plenty of awesome bosses, and they were pretty frequent. God of War 2018 is a long game with not enough bosses throughout, but what is there is awesome. And there were secret bosses and like upgrade paths, so you could choose what you really wanted to focus on, and there was finesse with that combat. I didn't think there would be with a large budget game like that, like with a Sony first-party title, but there's some seriously great combat in that game that's very different than other kind of over-the-shoulder Sony first-party exclusives. Like, you know, I mentioned Naughty Dog, like Last of Us and Uncharted, they're great, but, you know, they are more cinematic. They don't really do anything gameplay-wise interesting. They are more focused on the characters and the story, and that's fine, and they're beautiful, and, you know, but they've never been my thing. And I think God of War had a good balance between gameplay, story, cinematic. Like, you know, some of the scenes are fantastic, and it could pull on the heartstrings, but not in the cheesy way that, like, in the more movie Hollywood way that those other titles have. So I think God of War is one of the strongest IPs that Sony has now in my eyes. And I'm excited for Ragnarok. I really do think this will be coming out holiday. I wouldn't be surprised if it's pushed, but it just feels like a holiday game. They need something, and you know, some people are miffed that it's going to be a dual release PS4, PS5 cross-gen title, that it'll hold it back visually. Same with like Horizon, but you know, like a lot of people can't get the PS5 right now, and who knows? Maybe it'll be a big graphical upgrade. But the game looks, regardless, good. Like God of War on PS4 still looks great. Like, I don't care if it looked exactly like that, but was like a new story. I'd be fine with it. I'm picking it up, man. Not gonna get like a $200 collector's edition, which I guarantee you they will make. But God of War 2, I'm down for it, and I'm excited to pick that up this holiday, which I really do think is going to happen. What do you think of this? Are you excited for that game? Did you like the old God of War more? What do you expect from this one? But my big game of the year, the game that we have a nebulous 2022 release date for, and the one I'm most excited for, some of you already know, is the character action game that I cannot wait for, and that is Bayonetta 3. Yes. you've seen some of my prior videos, you'll know that Bayonetta, I think, is the pinnacle of that genre. Ninja Gaiden Black and 3 and Devil May Cry 3 and 5, they come close. But I think in a lot of ways, Bayonetta 2 is like the perfect game. Like, it's one of my top games of all time. And it's made by one of the greats. It's made by Hideki Kamiya, the guy who invented Resident Evil. And, you know, I love the style. I love the gameplay. And it's a Switch exclusive. And this game, I mean, I bought my Wii U originally when Bayonetta 2 was announced as exclusive, and I wasn't disappointed. And I didn't have a Switch at first. When they announced Bayonetta 3 at the Game Awards in 2017, almost 4.5, like over 4.5 years ago, now going on 5 by the time it releases, I immediately bought a Switch. I'm like, oh, time to get a Switch to get Bayonetta 3. And I really didn't think, I don't think anyone think it would take this long. I mean, these aren't big JRPGs. Like, probably going to beat this game in like 8 to 10 hours and then just keep going through to unlock stuff. But yes, it is coming out 2022 after such a long delay. I mean, and I have high expectations for this. There's one trailer out. It looks great, but it's not enough for me, you know, to go on. And I'm just worried. I mean, Platinum Games is fantastic. When they do their own IPs, I think they really shine. When they do things like Bayonetta, Mad World, Anarchy Reigns, their newest release, Astral Chain. I love this game. Fantastic. I think they're at their best. Of course, they're the weaker licensed Activision-like games, like Ninja Turtles or Korra or Transformers, which I think is more Activision's fault on rushing them. But they've also had great collaborations with like Nier, doing Nier Automata with Square Enix, and Metal Gear Revengeance, which I won't hear is bad. I love that game. I think that game is fantastic with Konami. But you know, it's just been so long since Bayonetta 2 came out. Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to stick to it? Are they going to enhance that formula? I don't know how, because that game was so good. And, you know, it's not going to be a huge graphical update because it's still on the Switch, which I don't really care about. But as long as like Bayonetta had a style to it, and I want it to have this game to have its own style. You know, I'm worried. Babylon's Fall, like I've heard, is going to be the biggest flop of the year, but I think that's being co-developed by another company. So whatever. And, you know, Scalebound got canceled. Like, things have happened at Platinum. So, you know, I'm hoping that it hasn't lost any of the magic that made Bayonetta 1 and 2 and all those other magical titles that I mentioned. So I have my eye on that the most. I have my expectations set very, very, very high after all this time, and I'm just worried that I might be disappointed because, honestly, Bayonetta 3 is not a 10 out of 10 in the combat and style department. I'm going to be a little disappointed. I want it to be the greatest third-person action game I've ever played, and I've never said that. I've never said, hey, this new Sonic should be the best platform ever made. Like, or this Halo should be the best shooter ever made. Like, I actually expect Bayonetta 3 to be the best character action game ever made. Devil May Cry 5 came very, very close, but it didn't quite have what I was looking for. I had bland environments. Otherwise, that game is nearly perfect. I want it all from Bayonetta. I want style, great environments, great new characters, great new weapons, and that's a lot to ask for. But let's see if that 4, and probably by the time it comes out, 5-year development, Jesus, it's so long, will have paid off, and we get it with Bayonetta 3, hopefully sometime this year. And that is it. That's my most anticipated games. Those are the games that we know are coming out this year, or at least announced for this year, and my thoughts on them. I do have some very quick dreams, that pie in the sky and possible things that I want this year. My hopes and dreams. Real quick, I want a Marvel vs. Capcom 2 re-release that was gathering some traction earlier this year with the arcade one-up machines releasing Marvel vs. Capcom and Maximilian's dude's campaign to get it. That's something that I don't think is going to happen, but I really want. It's an impossible dream. I want a new 3D Mario to come out in the vein of Odyssey or Galaxy. I don't think that's obviously coming out this year, but the dream is a trailer. I just want a trailer for Odyssey 2, Galaxy 3, or something brand new, a big Mario adventure. I think Bowser's Fury is kind of leading up to that. It was kind of a practice run for the next 3D Mario, and I really want that. I also want to see some more from Pragmata. Remember Pragmata? That was Capcom's new IP they announced for the next generation that was supposed to come out this year in 2022 and got delayed into 2023. It's the one with the crazy spaceman, little blind girl, kind of looks like Death Stranding, being risen up into space. Very odd looking. Look it up, Pragmata, if you forgot. I want to just see something for that game. I hope that actually gets something this year. I want to see some more trailers for Final Fantasy 16. It's been 2 years since that game was announced. It will be 2 years soon. I don't know what to think of that game. I mean, we don't know much about it. It clearly looks like more like Eorza. It looks like it's leaning in the direction of Final Fantasy 14 style, more having the same director, I believe. Tabata is someone else. I forget the director of 14. But, I want to know more about the combat system in that world. I prefer the more cyberpunk anime side of Final Fantasy. The medieval thing, I think, has been done to death. and it's great on its own. But like I'm more of that like wild like Final Fantasy 7, 8, 9, 10 side. But we'll see what happens with 16. I'm still interested. I want to know what happens. And Impossible Dream, Ninja Gaiden 4 announcement. I mean, Neo 2 came out recently, and if you don't know, the Hayabusa clan and like Ryu Hayabusa is basically in Neo 1 and 2, and he's been appearing in Tecmo Koei games like constantly, like the Dynasty Warriors, the Warriors Orochi games. This year they released the Ninja Gaiden trilogy as a downloadable package. They're not the best versions. I don't like Ninja Gaiden Sigma 1 or 2 nearly as much as the original releases, but whatever. I'm hoping that was all leading up to an announcement of Ninja Gaiden 4 by Tecmo Koei when they're done with Strangers in Paradise, Final Fantasy. So those are just some wish list things that I don't actually expect this year, but I'd like to see. And yeah, man, this is going to be a fun year, 2022. Listen to the games. If half of these games actually make it out this year, this is going to be a damn good year for gaming. If like just Zelda 2, God of War 2, and Sonic comes out, and if Sonic's good, that's going to be awesome. Like Elden Ring, Horizon, and King of Fighters, like those are confirmed this year. Those are coming out in a few weeks. That's already a good year. Like if you're into those games and like those three end up being good, they're going to be good. It's going to be a solid year just on that. But there's so much coming out. There's big question marks like Ghostwire Tokyo or Gotham Knights. Like, are they actually coming out? It's exciting. And I'm looking forward to, as we recover from the pandemic. I mean, it's going up and down, but we're things seem a little bit more free. And as the console generation picks up more, I hope that people will be able to buy their new graphics cards for their PCs or their new consoles and enjoy these games to the fullest extent. And I would love to see that, like, this gen picks up. I don't want this to be the generation where people couldn't get the hardware to play the good new games, and that it took forever for this gen to kind of get started. And by the time it got started, there's already another new gen. I was like, if all these come out and they're all like at least decent, which it's definitely going to be, it's going to be a solid year for gaming, my guys. So that wraps up, and thank you so much for listening to me spiel on about what I think my hopes and dreams for 2022 are. Yet again, and I say this all the time, and my favorite thing about this channel is my conversation with you guys. So let me know what you think this year is going to be. Please check out my review of 2021 and my game of the year if you haven't seen that already. Please like and subscribe if you haven't seen that already. And thank you so much for engaging me. You guys have been a great audience, and I'll respond to you all as quickly as I can if you leave comments below. I'm eternally grateful for all of that. My name is Mike. This has been Chip Damage, and please take care of yourselves and have a good night.